See, the problem for most of us is we think about what we need to do, but thinking won't change your life. The only way you're going to change your life or change your career or change your health is to take action. And so the reason why so many people get stopped by procrastination and stopped by fear and stopped by anxiety is because they never get past the part of just thinking about it. And I believe that we all have a habit that I call the habit of hesitation. And in psychology, psychologists and researchers say there's basically two types of people, right? There's people that have a bias towards action. And those are the kinds of folks that when inspiration strikes or when confidence strikes or when courage strikes or when opportunity strikes, they tend to lean toward it and to take action. And based on research, those folks tend to be happier, healthier, more successful, more fulfilled in life. And then there's the rest of us. And those of us that have what psychologists call a bias towards thinking, which means in a moment of uncertainty, a moment of opportunity, a moment where you need courage or confidence, instead of leaning toward it, you lean away from it. You start thinking, what should I do? And it's that habit of hesitating in moments of change that is keeping you stuck. We call it procrastination. We call it overthinking. We call it a lot of things, but it's just a habit of pausing. And then you trip into patterns of thinking and patterns of behavior that have been holding you back for years.
If you're thinking, then you're not taking action. And if you're not taking action, then there's no consequence. And if there's no consequence, then there's nothing to be afraid of. So I think that the overthinking can be an excuse for actual fear. And same thing with like, oh, I'm a perfectionist. That's also fear. It's fear of not being perfect. And then on top of that, low confidence. Well, if you have low confidence, guess what? You're afraid. Your confidence is low. You're not sure of yourself, so you sit around and think about doing it instead of actually doing it. And then anxiety. Well, yeah, anxiety actually is fear. You're afraid to do something. And then IQ. Now that might be, I guess, maybe someone has a high IQ and therefore they're thinking a lot. And maybe that's not fear. But let me ask you a question. If you're so smart, then why aren't you taking action and making something happen? So you've got a big IQ, that's no excuse to sit around and overthink things. Especially because if you're so smart, why can't you come up with a quick solution? Why can't you realize that overthinking is actually causing the problem harm? It's not moving the problem forward. So quit thinking so much and take action.
I know a lot of really smart people that are miserable.
Yeah.
I know a ton of people that do nothing but read self-help books or watch videos on YouTube about inspiration and do nothing.
Yeah.
And the reason why is they gather information as a way to feel like you're working on something. And learning is a really important thing to do, like understanding, becoming more self-aware. It's critical to you improving your life. It's critical to you being happier and more fulfilled. If you don't understand yourself and you don't understand the patterns of thinking, the patterns of behavior that are keeping you stuck, you'll never be able to break them and replace them. But you can get yourself comfortable with learning and duping yourself into thinking that somehow being smarter about what you need to do to be healthy will make you healthy. That's not true. Just like reading about launching a business doesn't launch a business. And so, you know, one of the other things that I find to be really interesting, and I think this is one of the reasons why people really resonate with a lot of what I have to say. I don't know if it's the dyslexia, the ADHD, what it is, but I can't remember a lot of information in terms of a list. So if I'm trying to get healthy and you give me 11 things to do, I will do none of them. If you give me one simple thing that I can grab onto, I will likely try it. And I think a lot of times what happens for folks is, and I know it certainly has happened for me, is that even if the information is empowering, if it feels complicated, I'm not going to do it.
That we don't need perfection. We need to move forward. And the other thing is you explain the cost of not moving, the cost of staying still, the cost of being reactive instead of proactive, and basically the cost of not being. being aggressive, because that's what we're talking about, is a lack of aggression. The longer we sit, the better position the enemy gets into. The longer we wait, the less we know about what is actually happening. Think about that one. The more you sit here and you're planning, the less we know what's going on out there. The things are happening. They're changing. They're evolving. The enemy is maneuvering. There's developments on the battlefield or in the marketplace, and you don't even know because you're sitting in the planning space. The longer we wait, the less time we have to recover if something does go wrong. So if we sit here and plan for 47 days, and on the 48th day we step out and we start to execute and something goes wrong, well, we're not going to make the 50-day mark because we spent all that time planning. So the longer that you're... sitting around, the less time you have to recover and adapt and adjust. And the longer that you wait while you're doing planning, the less relevant your plan actually becomes. So that's what you need to make people understand. And there's people that are just habitual and chronic ferocious analyzers, and those are the people you gotta watch, but you gotta continually just get through their head that the more we sit, the more the enemy maneuvers.
One of the coolest things about, being on YouTube and being on social media and putting work out and speaking on stages around the world is when you have a super simple idea, it's so sticky that anybody can share it. It sounds kind of stupid that count backwards. Okay. You're not going to forget that because it sounds kind of dumb. And the idea itself is so simple and so sticky. Anybody can try it and anybody can share it. And oftentimes people don't even know my name. They're like, oh my gosh, you're the 5 lady or Robin. They mix, they don't even they've been watching me. And I love that because for me, it's about the tools. And in Steph's case, what's super interesting about her excitement, because I literally cannot go through a day at this point and have somebody not walk up to me and say, you changed my life. And I always say the exact same thing when somebody tells me that. I say, thank you so much for telling me. I appreciate you acknowledging me and following me, but you deserve the credit because you did the work. I just gave you a tool. that I happened to discover that helps you move from thinking to doing. So she moved herself from thinking about how much she hated her job to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, stopping the thinking by counting backwards and pushing herself to move. She moved herself from thinking about applying for the dream job of yours and 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 hitting send. She moved herself from thinking about going to the gym to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, cutting the procrastination loop in half and then replacing it with a push to take action. How do you make yourself take actions when you're afraid, when you're scared, when you're overwhelmed? How do you break bad habits? How do you break the negative thinking that is causing you to feel paralyzed?